Now I'm just missing.
She was happier once I was.
Yeah, I liked her, but I liked you guys.
Okay.
But now I'm
Nice to see you.
0 to 2 on
See you
Virgo.
guys.
She's like,
It's bad.
We don't have much. All right.
Well, I can't imagine what it was like for you today.
What do you
She's
mean?
bad now.
What, the noise?
Yeah.
Well, they've only started after.
They just started now.
Oh.
Yeah. Just when they were doing our bathrooms up here, it was going on.
Wow.
These are questions that were sent ahead of time. This is your from rental summary.
Yeah, I just made stuff.
Yeah. This adds a paper.
Yes, great, very nice.
File from it.
Very nice.
Yeah, I know some folks like paper and pen, so.
Pen.
Oh, yeah. pencils,
Writing
highlighters,
pencils.
Yeah, a little paper.
Is this thing, Steve, you know,
Yeah.
paper?
Oh,
Okay.
seems very old school.
Ready to rock?
Yeah. Are you ready? Is it recording?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, welcome everyone. Today is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Zoning and Planning Committee. And in the room, we have Counselor Getz, Counselor Oliver, Counselor Albright, and Counselor Gordon on the committee. And online, we have Counselor Kalis, Counselor Damubed, and Counselor Baker. Okay, and people not, counselors not on the committee is, counselors, pardon?
He's out one too. We want to allow.
Kalis.
Oh, did I thought I said Kalis, no?
Yeah.
Counselor.
Yeah, she did. She did.
Okay.
Well, you're here
Just
twice
help
then.
her.
Yeah, no, I think it's worse.
The chat.
And then,
And
not,
I don't have. I should mention, I don't have a working camera for reasons I don't understand. So that's it.
okay,
I need to buy him a new computer.
I know. And, not on the committee, but, city councilor in the room is Counselor Sean Roach. And the first item we're gonna talk about is, I'll read it in, is 22-26. Oh, are we gonna do the pre-budget or the short term? Okay, request for a pre-budget planning discussion. Counselors Baker, Wright, Farrell, Getz requesting a preliminary discussion with the planning department, inspectional services department, and CPA program to prepare for the committee's FY 27 budget review of these departments and programs. So, let's take the planning department, and we have Ms. Wewell, the acting director of planning. And I don't know if you saw the questions ahead of time at all or not.
Yeah, I just, they just came in my inbox, so I think been looking over them, but I think happy to take any more. And I think the intent from our pre-discussion with the chair and vice chair is just to note them. Won't have a response tonight, but happy to provide a more comprehensive response in advance of our budget meeting.
Great, and what we should do is maybe just go
No,
over.
right there. Yeah.
If you have maybe a quick response or whatever, but if you have any questions, you could ask those too. Okay. So,
They just came in like 3 minutes ago, so I don't think I'll have a quick response, but I can take a look.
so are these by department areas or just general?
So the first page is general and consultants, and then the next two pages should be the planning and ISD specific questions.
Okay,
So, Madam Vice Chair, if I
Yes.
can offer, I think we really, we didn't expect Ms. Wewell will respond to these tonight because that's really for the budget discussion. It's just to see if there's anything not on the list that you want to make sure is in her hands beforehand. So I think she's more, as I understand it, a listener than a responder at this stage.
Yeah.
So if,
There might be one or two that are really easy to answer, like, for whatever reason, so. But yes, it's more listening, and if you have any questions on them. We're having construction in the bathroom, so it's kind of loud in here, but I don't think it's too loud online, is it?
I can't hear
No.
any construction.
I can't either.
Okay, why don't I go through, so first I'll read the questions and then, we'll see if anybody else, counselors have any other questions. And then, Ms. Wewell, you can, ask your questions of us. So general questions, and it's, what opportunities are available for continuing education professional publications? What procedures govern when vacations occur to ensure coverage? How can ZAP and land use help you achieve the goals you have listed for FY 2027? And anybody who's new in the budget, when they present the budget, they have their goals listed there. Okay. And we'll get the budget way before our meeting. Number 4, how are staff or FTEs aligned to challenges and opportunities you list as your goals? Do you have any questions on that, Ms. Wewell? Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, no questions so far.
Bunch of questions then on consultants, and I know planning tends to have a lot of consultants, and so number 1, where do you intend to seek external help to achieve these goals? What type of help do you think you will need? How do these show up in your budget? Do you think you need to engage a consultant? Which ones? How much might we spend on them? 2, what amounts are set aside for consultants and how are they spent? Who must authorize and review the work? 3, would it be possible to have an accounting of expenditures and current balances in the consultant accounts? 4, entering contracts with individual consultants, how are they managed? Is oversight left with the planning director? If additional work or unplanned expenditures arise, how is this handled? I know I've had questions in the past about consultants because what's in the budget and what's been spent has been kind of different. And I know sometimes there's a little bit of overlap, but it was still not really clear to me. And I think in a few other people too. Any questions on those at all? And
Nope.
so I know, we just think of this part of planning, but part of planning is also transportation, and I know they got consultants over there, and so probably talk about those other different areas too. Planning and development. 1, what is the greatest need within planning? What would be the most effective financial investment within the department? 2, is there a budget or staff capability to focus on intentional periodic engagement with the community through mailings, attendance at village days, farmers market? Then some more on consultants. We used to have, do we still have a community engagement person in planning?
We do. So, I think this past year we sort of reworked that job description from community engagement to more outreach and to be more communications focused. I think what we were experiencing is we just were having a hard time getting the work we do out there and kind of breaking it down in a really easy to understand way. We all went to school for planning. To us, it's like, oh, it's so simple, but it's not to everyone. It's not as clear what we're up to, what we're working on, why it's important, what are the rules that govern the work we do. So we really wanted to take a more, I think, view of that role to be more communications focused. How can we share about the work we do and what we are doing?
And who is in that role right now?
That is Hannah Sternberg. She started last January.
Like 2 months ago, or?
No, 2025.
Okay. Okay, Counselor Kalis has his hand raised.
Yeah, so Ms. Wewell, on consultants, I'm just wondering, and you don't have to answer here, although I'd love your off the cuff. Like, what's your perspective on consultants? Do you just use them when you don't have expertise in-house? Or do you use them because there's a budget allocated and you want to use it up? Do you, how do you, and what's your perspective on how they've been used in the past?
Yeah, no, thanks for that question. And I think one thing, I guess just about my background and experience in planning is up until this year, I'd been mostly in development review. So the consultants we use there are all developer funded. So it's a little bit different. So now I'm stepping into this role and learning more about what we've done with the consultants. And it, to me, it seems like they're really, I wouldn't say an extra pair of hands, but just when we have, some ambitious or really, maybe a step below him, ambitious, I would say Village Center. We needed a consultant for that, but then we also used consultants for facade ratio. And I think they really help us in sort of the images and kind of case studies, kind of doing that analysis that then frees up staff time for other things like communicating with the public. We can't send a member of the public to the consultant. We want to be available for that. So I think it's just, it allows us to get our work done probably faster than if it were just the planning department. But I think I'm also learning what we've used consultants for. I think we used consultants on the plaza. So to me, they're like an extra pair of hands who can also do more analysis and have tools at their disposal that we may not. But I'd like to look into that more and provide that update next time.
I think that's good. I mean, I think that's right too, because it's either they're going to provide expertise or the ability to get something done faster. And, if you're working with the chair and vice chair and they're saying, look, this isn't as much of a priority, it's more complex, you have 6 months on it, maybe you don't need a consultant, but I think you're looking at it in the right way. So that's good. Thank you.
And Counselor Farrell has joined us, and do you have a question on consultants?
Yes.
Okay, can I read these questions first?
Sure.
Okay, because not everybody has these questions in front of them, that's why I'm reading them. So questions under consultants. What is the total annual expenditures on planning related consultants? Zoning, special permits, peer review, transportation, urban design, and how does it compare to the approved budget? 2, which functions are currently outsourced? Peer review of development projects, zoning ordinance updates, transportation studies. 3, are consultants being used due to specialized expertise or staffing capacity gaps? Some of these questions you've actually answered already. 4, for recurring needs, what would it be more cost effective to build in-house capacity? 5, how are consultant scopes defined and controlled to prevent cost overruns? 6, historically, consultant spending has not aligned with budget. What specific changes have been implemented to improve forecasting and oversight? And Counselor Albright.
So, I know that we have used, UTO, and Landwise because we really don't have any architectural expertise. We don't have that kind of architectural financial analysis at all in-house. And
Counselor Damubed.
well, now we have Counselor Downbed, but he's not on staff. And zoning and planning has a lot to do with analysis of what are the architectural implications, what are the cost implications, and I guess I don't know if we can afford those people to be on staff or part-time even. So I understand why we use consultants in those particular areas, but it would be nice to have people like that on staff.
Right. And I think one thing that's important to consider is, it's not just the salary of staff, it's also all the benefits that come with it that I think maybe tips the scales in the ability to use the consultants where the trade-off is. And I do question whether we would be competitive with consultants to have an architect on staff who, wouldn't have some sort of conflict of interest as well.
That's true, so, but you'll explain all that when you answer these questions. That'd be great.
Any other questions on consultants? No. Okay. The next one is AI and technology. One, where can AI or technology automation reduce staff time in? Examples, permit intake and review, plan document review, zoning compliance, dimensional checks, staff report drafting. Two, are we fully utilizing existing systems, permitting software, GIS tools, or are there gaps in training or integration? Three, what specific technology investments would have the highest ROI? For example, upgraded permitting system, GIS integration, digital plan review tools. Four, what are the barriers to implementation? Procurement, IT support, training, data quality. Five, how can technology improve transparency and communication with residents and applicants? And six, could AI assist with zoning analysis, FAR, setbacks, client checklist? Or two, identifying consistencies across plans, documents, and three, generating draft staff reports on decision memos. Have you started using AI or any other additional tools in the planning department?
So we have not used AI in sort of the more technical things, that we use planners for. I'm very kind of cautious of sort of that direction. I in terms of sort of trusting the information AI would give. I don't know if AI would know what the difference between an old lot and a new lot is. Our zoning is so specialized that I think that would be very risky because we're also subject to these state processes. I'm thinking in special permits and, I think I'm just very cautious with that. Where we have tried and continue to use AI is meeting minutes. So the planning department staffs, the historic boards and commissions, there's about 5 a month. So that's cumulatively quite a few meetings that we need to do the agenda and minutes for. So we've tried AI there. It's been a little bit challenging because the software we've been working with doesn't identify who the speaker is. And, as some of these meetings go on for several hours. So there's 50 speakers in a meeting, and that doesn't quite help the person who's conducting or doing the minutes. So we're trying with more kind of meeting minute software and things like that, but we're not having too much success. And I think we're just trying to figure out what the right meeting is that we can use it.
Have you talked to other towns and cities to see if they're using it and what's working for them?
I think we're trying to use what we have access to. I think through Zoom, there's the Otter transcript feature, and then there's a note taker feature. So I think we're kind of trying to see what is available to us before maybe exploring other options. But I think it's something to explore. It's also, I think, sometimes people's personal preference. They're fine listening and doing it. They have minutes down, or they prefer the AI.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions in that area? No.
I can just tell you my experience with AI. I asked it about raised beds.
Yeah.
And they referred me to a proposed ordinance that we had about 10 years ago where it was allowed and told me, oh yeah, Newton does that. And the other question I asked, I can't remember what it was, but they referred me and I had a conversation with the commissioner about this one. they referred me to an old version of the software and not, of the zoning code and not the newer version, so it makes mistakes, and you really have to be careful.
I think anything, though, you need to check it. Do you wanna say what you've done it or no? Okay. We have been joined in the room by Counselor Maliki, yep, and we also have been joined online by Counselor Block and Counselor Damyabed. Do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to be on the record as being a bit of an AI skeptic, but I think the main question that I have around this is whether or not, I mean, it's good that the planning department is putting some thought into and being critical and how AI is used. I'm wondering if there's a bigger question about an administration-wide strategy to how AI is used or not used, and whether that, you know, or whether this is going to be a department by department decision. You may not have the answer there, Ms. Wewell, but you know, if as you're considering this, if that's the conversation that comes up, it would be helpful to know if that's influencing the timeline of implementation and the strategy for implementation.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the administration has any sort of not policy, but direction on that. You know, I think though, like if I could just share, sometimes as staff, we do try to play with it and just see if it could work. And just anecdotally, like Counselor Albright is kind of spits out the wrong information. It doesn't account for things like nonconformities. So I think even if we were to I don't even know if it's possible to use it for, you know, a zoning capacity, but I think we might as well do it instead of have to check like a machine or AI.
Okay, anything, other questions for planning before we go to the next one? Okay, and I don't think there's any questions specifically for the CPA area. There's no questions on here specifically. So let's do ISD next. So you can come to the table, Commissioner. So there's some general questions here, and I don't know, do you use any consultants? Okay. But you may want to take a look at a few of those general ones we went through, and then the ISD, I'll read them off. And if you want to say anything about it, and if anybody else has questions. Number one, is ISD properly staffed to meet demands for inspections, permitting, and enforcement? 2, what are the biggest bottlenecks? Plan review, for example, plan review, inspections, enforcement, customer response times, etc. 3, if one additional FTE were added, where would it have the greatest impact? 4, would adding staff reduce reliance on consultants or overtime? 5, what is the greatest need within ISD? What would be the most effective financial investment within the department? 6, how can ISD keep ZAP appraised of feedback, quote, from the counter? For example, questions from builders and homeowners, interpretation of zoning, etc. 7, are there any additional processes to put in place to reduce zoning violations rather than a complaint-driven system? Beyond additional inspectors in the field identifying violations, are there additional legal resources that can be used to prevent them from occurring? Is it possible to add a tiered fee schedule for violations, first, second, third infraction? 8, is it possible to add a surcharge for demolition based on the tonnage removed from the site? 9, capture the questions asked at the ISD counter. Good idea. Oh, Dale. Is there a need for additional information to be distributed to the counter? You get off light there, Commissioner. Any comments or?
I mean, one additional full-time employee would be an electrical inspector. Due to the fossil fuel free ordinance going on in the city and the combined with the new energy codes that most new, if not all new homes are all electric now anyway, so. There's a bit of a strain. We have 3 full-timers now with a part-timer that fills in when they're on vacation or out sick. And so we're gonna seek another electrical inspector.
Okay. It's good to know. Anybody, oh, I see some hands. Counselor Kalis.
Commissioner, I'm sure I've asked this before or somebody has, but how do you keep track of all the special permits? Do you need more systems to be able to do that? Does something come up like when something is time-based where you need to check on it? Like is there an alarm? Is it really solely complaint driven?
So are you talking about just if someone came to the counter, wanted to do some work on their home or a developer came in, how would we know there's a special permit on it? Is that what you're asking?
No, the special permits that are already passed, and we're supposed to be monitoring to make sure that they're within the law.
After it's been completed, you mean?
Yes.
And Katie could probably confirm this with me, but I believe there's somebody in planning that does that already.
Yeah, I can I think to explain the link between inspectional services and planning, not only kind of being the stewards of the zoning ordinance, planning, it takes the special permit through the public process. And then if it's approved, it gets recorded. At that, we use the permitting software for, changing sort of the status of a property to indicate that it has a special permit. We upload the decision to the main landing page that we see as staff, so that kind of communicates, hey, there's a special permit here. It kind of, then transitions from planning to inspectional services. I think with all of the conditions that get attached to special permits, those are typically phased at building permit occupancy, but then for some of the larger projects, we have post occupancy conditions.
Up on the observation deck,
So we've been working, we meaning planning, have been working on a record type in NewGov to flag post occupancy conditions. So that creates a new record. It gets put into staff members' inbox in NewGov, and that's how we track it. So for example, I had one, it was around one of the cannabis retailers that had a parking monitor attached to it on Boylston Street. So I was responsible for sort of the implementation of that condition that was placed. But we work pretty closely with the commissioner and his team on, if there's zoning enforcement requested, we'll try to get the zoning code enforcement officer the decision, the correct decision, the most up-to-date decision, and then work with them on that. So I hope that kind of helps, but happy to work with the commissioner on following up with any of those questions.
That's great. That's great. Is there, I mean, because to me, it sounds, my guess is that in the first year, these projects are within compliance. It's then you get up to year 5 and maybe 10 where they're just like, maybe not. So it's those years, those out years that I'm more concerned about actually. And do we have somebody that looks at those, or is that, or no, because we don't have the resources? And maybe we shouldn't say this publicly. I'm not sure.
I suggest you hold the answer to that question till later.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, are you done?
Yes.
Okay, Counselor Albright.
So I do want to just pursue that a little bit, and that is, because of a recent discovery through the Newton Country Day School's current project, you know, I found a 97, 99 special permit that said there had to be a vegetative buffer, and now there are kids parking there. And I want to know if you can put a process in place to at least try and look at all the old special permits. I don't know if it's once a year, once every 2 years, once every 3 years. Get a process in place to make sure that we look at all the old special permits periodically and see if they're out of compliance or not. I'm guessing many of them are out of compliance. So I know the recent, as Councilor Kayla said, the recent ones are probably in good shape. But I think we need to think about a process to make sure we're looking at the old ones. At least once every 3 years, something like that.
That would be a lot of special permits that we would all have to look at.
I know, but what's the point of having conditions in special permits if we don't look at it?
I'm not saying that, you know, it's an issue, but, that would almost require somebody just to be on full-time, just going back, looking at all the other special permits. And that would be their primary job. It would be, it sounds to me, that would be to go back and check these, special permits and, to make sure they were in compliance.
Well, that's something we should talk about at budget time. How much value is there in these conditions if we don't go back and check on them?
And also trying to find the older special permits. I mean, thankfully for NewGov, we can, most of all, if not all, current special permits are on the new software. At some point, we would have liked to have the city clerk, because they are the keeper of the special permit, the keeper of the records, go through possibly all of the files of special permits, and then upload them to the addresses that have these. You know, there'll be times when we'll go into the property file, we won't even find a special permit in there sometimes, but there will be a special permit on there, and it becomes a problem. So that is a problem, and we should address that. Yeah.
Whether it's the clerk's office or your office or whose office, we should figure out how to make that happen. Because that was the whole point of getting the permitting system, so that we could.
Well, obviously to be more in tune with all of the permits that we have, including special permits, and I think it's done a good job for current. But we need the all the older ones to be uploaded and be gone through.
Yeah, I agree. If they're not, they should be. So
Yeah.
we should talk about who's gonna do it and who's gonna pay for it.
Do you have a guesstimate of how many special
No,
permits
no.
are there?
I have no idea.
Like 20,000?
I have no idea.
Wait, there's a couple other people too. Counselor Baker.
Thank you. I'm having trouble with my video, but again, I think these are legitimate questions for the budget, and I hope that the process will involve the clerk of the committee taking some of these oral comments and questions and making sure they're consolidated and reorganizing the information so that it can be provided to both departments in advance of their budget discussion. But beyond that, I just want to mention my memory was in a prior administration, there was an effort to take old special permits, the legacy special permits that were in writing, and scan them in and make sure they were available electronically. I'm not sure whatever happened to that initiative, but it's one of those questions that may be worth following up.
I think they've done a lot.
Again. I think
On the ISD website on NewGov, some of the old permits are slowly coming on.
Yeah,
Here,
so
we can see those.
we have the DSAs in our office during the day at downtime. They're going through all of the property files that we have, and they're putting them to digital. So what are we up to now?
We're on P.
We're on P.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you're going alphabetically.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we've got through, you know, a bit of the files.
Anthony,
What?
other than Lodge.
Yeah, I know that. We have also the large files like BC, the mall, the street, all of those places that, we're saving all those for last. Once we get through all of the roads, Obviously, Washington Street, Watertown Street, they're two very large streets. They're gonna take a while, but I think we had estimated, Kristen had estimated somewhere around 2 to 3 to maybe, I think 2 to 3 years to complete the streets. Then you've been at ISD where we have the movable, rolling, files. The idea is to get rid of those, then to consolidate all of the, larger permits into a lateral file underneath the ISD counter, and then continue with them and, free up the moving space. Ideally, we'd love to bring the electrical and plumbing inspectors up and have them in the same office as we are.
Counselor gets to you.
Yeah, well, the only other thought that I was having was that, I think that this is actually a law review, in the sense of looking at the conditions and then highlighting them and then putting them on a timeline. So that then if someone is supposed to annually, and I remember Counselor Danberg talking about payments and that the payments weren't being followed, and that's the kind of thing where they need to be, into some sort of calendar. So that then it's like flagged in some way with the property.
But I think, planning does that already, Katie.
Yeah, so I'm not sure which payments Counselor Danberg was referring to, but I know since Attorney Temple and I have worked on standardizing special permit conditions, we actually tie it to a phase of development. So whether it's the building permit or the occupancy permit, that's when we, have the most leverage to get the conditions complied with. I think there's a history of special permits that we sort of question, why did they do it this way? Maybe the payment was just, they shall make this payment, period. And there was no time frame tied to it. So then as staff, that doesn't help us, but those are pretty old. So I think, I'm sure the commissioner has seen some pretty quirky special permits too, where you're kind of scratching your head and saying, why was this written this way? And so I think we've done a lot of work the last few years to standardize things, make things more predictable, less sort of copy and paste from an old decision, and, getting it right and having it make sense and tied to appropriate phases.
Okay, any other questions from counselors on pre-budget discussion? No, so what should we do on this? What's the motion? What?
Well, it's pre-budget, so it's either an and or a hold, I would think, and
Yeah,
we're gonna get to budget conversations in
a month.
early, well, a little bit longer, I would think, right? Because we start on the 27th, I think.
Yeah.
So
So let's, an and,
I think so. I think that's appropriate.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, do you need a motion? Motion and an.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone, opposed? Abstain? Okay, I think it's 8-0.
It is definitely unanimous.
Was this helpful, Ms. Wewell and Commissioner? Was this helpful?
Yeah.
Them ahead of time.
Okay, good. Okay, so the second and last item we have for tonight is 55-26. Update on short-term rental ordinance compliance and enforcement. Counselors Baker, Malachi, Getz, Farrell, and Kelly requesting an update on short-term rental ordinance compliance and enforcement, including data on registrations, complaints, investigations, and fines issued, types of violation being found, i.e. Non-owner occupied, room limits, annual time limits, other code variations like noise, health and safety, trash, ability to compare STRs registered with the city versus registered with the state versus listings on public platforms, ability to obtain listing information from STR, which is short-term rental companies, adequacy of resources or other obstacles to enforcement. Okay, it's all you.
Well, last year at this time, we had a total of 9 for the entire year registered short-term rentals.
Just 9 registered?
Yeah. For the entire year. This year, we've currently registered 24.
Oh, that's great.
Okay. We have 7 in process of being registered. Sometimes that takes a bit of a time because we typically find them on the short-term rental sites, Airbnb, VRBO. And so we can find them relatively easily. I can tell you they're probably starting to maybe have an uptick because the World Cup is coming in the summer. So, but we've been keeping an eye on it, and Andy Marvellis has been doing a great job at it. So far, we have $27,000 in violation letter fines. 32 civil tickets have been issued since November of last year.
How many?
32. That totaled to 21,300, roughly half of that's been paid. We actually, for the short-term rentals, we actually have them pay the fine before registering. They can't register without paying the fine. So some we've caught that said they won't do it anymore. Or and because they don't want to pay the fine. And other than that, some they just succumb and they just pay the fine. We also have 4 of the civil fines that are up for appeal in district court. Because they have the right to appeal. I don't know how they're gonna do. Sometimes the court is very, very lenient. As we've seen with leaf blower violations. I'm assuming it's gonna probably be the same thing. Maybe say, hey, don't do it again, and you know, but we usually find the people are repeat offenders. And we'll tell them to take their ad down. They take it down, a couple days later, it's back up. And then we start issuing tickets. Once we see it's up again, and then we just to try and make them understand, you can't do it. The best way we've been able to find them is that they don't have the registration, the Newton registration in the ad. And mainly that's how we find most of them. Sending out letters, that was one of the ways we were gonna try and find most of these. Isn't working as well as we thought it would. We've also found people who have returned the letter saying that they are no longer doing it, but then we find them online and they are doing it. So we'll probably still send the letters out, but maybe not in larger sums, maybe smaller, maybe 10 at a time to through the state's list to try and see if we can get a response back. Because basically we give them a return response that they're supposed to get back to us, saying that they either are operating or they're not operating or don't intend on operating. So so when we get that back, at least we have an idea. If we find them online later on, we can say, hey, well, you said that you weren't operating, but because we've had a few of those too. And sometimes the properties get sold and it's not even the right person, and they're not doing any short-term rentals whatsoever. What else? So yeah, basically we'll look online and we'll see if, because even on the short-term rental sites, they also rent for long-term, greater than 30 days. And if we see the ad up there with the STR registration, that's great. If we don't see an STR registration and that ad says that they're renting for more than 30 days, they're compliant. Other things. God bless you.
Thank you.
What I would like to maybe make is a couple of alterations to the ordinance. 20-161D. There's the ordinance that says 3 or more violation enforcement of the provision, you get a 6-month suspension. Okay. These suspensions are really They really don't work, okay? They pause all enforcement, drag things out, and in the meantime, they'll still rent in the meantime, so, it's just very difficult to, get a handle on.
So what should it be changed to?
Remove it altogether.
Three or more violations, just,
I mean, if you count just the ticket violations that they get as violations,
Yeah.
it'd all be suspended from the beginning.
yeah.
What amount is, what's the amount they're being ticketed?
$300
$300.
each violation.
And how much is it to register?
I believe it's $100. Yeah.
So I have questions.
Yep.
So, how many that are listed in the state's registry? Do you think how many do we have to go? Is it like
Roughly 200 or 175, somewhere around there.
Okay, so we have a ways to go still.
Yeah, it's gonna be a process.
Okay.
So there's 175 in the state registry?
I believe between 175 and 200. I know we probably got rid of 25 through, do you remember, Deb?
We sent out 77 letters.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't know the number of what we got back
Yeah.
that was actually registered.
Right.
Okay. What platforms are you looking at?
VRBO, Airbnb, are mainly the ones that we've been looking at.
Okay. I don't know if other people might know of other platforms that they can tell us.
I mean, there,
I think there are some others too.
What's the
I
other
don't
one
know.
there? There are many of them, but they all feed off of each other.
Yeah.
These are mainly the biggest two that you're gonna get the most out of enforcement.
Okay.
Okay. A lot of times people will own a two-family and they'll rent the upstairs while they live downstairs, which you cannot do. And we explain to them, you can't do that. If you wanna rent that out for 30 days, that's greater than 30 days or more, that's fine. But the short-term rental has to be the principal unit that you live in, so. And sometimes they don't understand, but you make them understand. Best we- yeah.
So if it's not allowed to rent out, an upstairs unit if you're living downstairs.
And the short-term rental.
Well, up to 3 months. Well, no, you're.
No, yeah, you can't at all, you have to live there.
Yeah.
If you're living on the first floor, you can't be living above.
So if you're living on the first floor, you can only rent above floors for longer than 3 months.
No,
Longer.
longer than 30 days.
Longer than 30 days, you cannot do anything short term.
No, 30 days or more, actually, is the way it is. Yeah.
But you can rent out your own apartment, the whole apartment. Let's say you go to the Cape for the summer.
Well, the whole apartment, as long as it's only 3 bedrooms
Yeah,
and up to 9 people.
yeah. And up to 3 months where you can rent out your whole apartment.
And a lot of these Airbnbs, people are there and they rent out a room and someone comes, you don't have to, the house doesn't have to be vacant in order to rent it.
Do you register for that scenario?
That is just registering for a short-term rental.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what it
if
is.
it's gonna be for, a weekend or a week or whatever, someone's in town for maybe a wedding or something and they needed a place to stay, that would work out. There wouldn't be a problem as long as you were registered.
Counselor Baker, you had your hand up. a moment ago.
Thanks. This is a longer range question, but I appreciate the commissioner's effort and to notify the people who registered for the state. This is a question I have is, and maybe we can get an answer for an update in the future, whether in fact we can do anything with the state to require parallel registration with the local governments in which have a short-term rental ordinance. Because it seems to me that there is a value here from the state perspective to have people comply at both levels. And so this may be an opportunity to look ahead with our state delegation to figure out if there's some either regulatory or even legislative response that would enable the state to say, when you register for us, you also must register with the local government, that if there is one. Because the whole point of here is to maintain our long-term rental stock, not have it diverted into short-term rentals. And we worked very hard in that direction. And I think that if applaud the commissioner's effort, and we want to keep him active in that effort, and but give him all the tools we can. Thanks.
Counselor Getz.
Yeah, the only other thought that I'm having is, it seems like there's quite a bit of time investment, within
Yep.
ISD.
Yep.
To resolve this.
Yep.
Do you think that you're actually being effective, in terms of like, it sort of seems like you're halfway through, if not.
Yeah, well,
less than-
I didn't mean to.
No,
Yeah.
I'm just sort of saying.
It's gonna take time, just like any enforcement takes time. I mean, if there are 175 out there, you gotta work through it. There is investigation work that you have to do. You have to go online, you have to find out, okay, is this in Newton? Trying to find it is a little bit of a work, but we've been getting much better at it. And he really is, he's a whiz at it. He can find most of any place. And, but, it takes time, and then you send out the violation tickets, sometimes you don't get a response, but usually these tickets are what have been getting the biggest response, that's what's bringing them in. Not your regular zoning violation that we used to send out. It doesn't, that really doesn't produce much of a response from the violators. But you send them a $1,200, $1,200 ticket, they're coming to the county. Okay, and it's worked wonders, I'll tell you that much. And and Deb Finnemore here has put this whole system together that basically you're just clicking on these tickets and you're sending them out as quick as we can. It's been fantastic. NewGov has been phenomenal with this.
Counselor.
So the
Okay.
it's $300 a day then.
Per violation.
$300
So,
per
if you're
day.
not registered and you don't have your number up on the registration, that's $600 right there. Okay? And if you're renting more than, and in the ad, if it shows you're renting more than nine people, that's another violation. If you're renting more than 3 bedrooms, that's another violation. So it adds up quick.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was just 300, how it came to that amount, so
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah.
I'm kind of curious though, do most of the people you contact, are they doing this intentionally and it's only $100 to register? Or do they genuinely not know?
Some don't realize you have to register. Some we find out they've been doing it for 9-10 years. And I can tell you also, we get very little complaints, if none, from residents.
Good, so it's been working then.
Well, I'm just saying, if, even with the ones that are out there now, we really don't get many complaints at all that I can see. From, most of this is being found by our Andy Manavelis, pretty much.
I mean, before we were getting a lot of concerns.
Some we were getting some complaints, but they're like everything else, there are some that you'll get complaints and some you won't, like I said, some of these were going on for 9, 10, 12 years. Yeah, and then they don't realize, give them that day that they don't realize. What would help is probably putting something in the mayor's newsletter about this, saying about, hey, short-term rentals, let's not forget, you have to be registered in the city of Newton, advertise with the city of Newton registration number in order to be compliant with the ordinance.
Yeah, because right now Airbnb is putting out announcements, looking for places. to
They're
rent.
actually giving bonuses.
Yes.
For World Cup
Yeah.
people, they're up like $400 or $500.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we've seen those out there too.
Yeah, so it'd be a good idea to.
Which is an incentive for people who don't normally do it to actually, rent it out. Hey, we can make a few extra bucks here, but again, if we find them, we give them time to respond. Okay, we'll send them a letter, we give them up to about, 10, 12 days now,
I'm sorry, from which letter?
for, when
Well, we
he,
send multiple letters.
yeah, I know, there's the one we
First
send
letter
out,
is asking them if they do it.
if they do it on, and
The
then when,
second letter is you're in violation, you have 7 days to correct it or contact us, and then the first ticket goes out after that.
Yeah. so we give them a chance to
Yeah.
respond and for them to get the mail, to get the actual notice.
Any other questions? Yes, Counselor Malachi.
You said there were a couple of things that you would suggest changing, one of them being the getting rid of the suspension thing.
Yep.
So the alternative to that would be you just keep out sending.
You just keep sending things.
Yes. And that actually gets the money.
Well, I think you're gonna get a quicker turnaround. of someone to be compliant. Again, because the 6 month suspension just, okay. You just wait around.
Or will be cut again, but if they're suspended, quote unquote suspended,
Yeah,
and, you catch them still renting, is that an extra fine?
anytime you see them that they were, violating the ordinance, it's a fine.
Uh-huh,
So it's very difficult to keep track of. Tracking these things is just, it's difficult.
is this where AI would help?
No, I don't know if it would help with this, okay, but, it's just it's an arduous process
Yeah.
to keep track of all these. Andy keeps a whole spreadsheet. On the ones that he's looked at, and he has it all color coded, he's very organized, I'll put it that way. To the point of frustration. But he does a wonderful job.
And, if you issue the fines, so they either pay the fine, they appeal it,
Yeah,
or there are ones who just don't respond and wait for them.
well,
wait for you to
then when,
send a
if
copy
they don't
of the
respond at
fine.
all, then at that point, we can always take them to court.
Okay,
Yeah.
and has that had to happen much?
Not yet. Well, like I said, there are, I think, 2 going for appeal.
Uh-huh.
Or you said.
Yeah, 4 civil fines scheduled to appeal in court.
Now, those tickets went out over a month or 2 ago.
Yeah.
And we don't have a court hearing until May. So in that time frame, we can't do anything
We can't,
because they're appealing. So all our work has to stop.
everything
We can't
ceases.
pick it up again until May 6th.
Can you issue new tickets if they keep advertising while they're appealing an old ticket?
Now the whole thing
So
stops.
you have to stop everything.
So their best way to keep running an illegal Airbnb without getting fined is to appeal those fine.
Sounds like.
Is there a way to fix that?
That's court, not us.
I think his recommendation to remove that section makes a huge amount of sense. Before he brought it up, I was looking at it thinking this makes no sense. Because if you appeal it and everything, enforcement will pause. And
Madam Chair.
Yeah, Counselor Baker?
So I'm gonna move hold on this item because I think that some of the things can be modified as we've talked about. But also, I do think it's worth having a conversation with the law department. Because I don't think we want to necessarily deny someone the right to appeal, but if there's someone who's operating illegally, in the meantime, I'm troubled that the commissioner's office has no recourse. So I'd like to have an opportunity to explore that with the law department and bring the item back later at another time with the commissioner and our law department involved.
I do want to say one more thing as far as, we require them to give us an affidavit every year that has to be, signed by them and notarized. I would probably rather get rid of the notarization part of it out and just have them give us a signed letter,
Why
because that always, it always results in some sort of issue, or we didn't know it had to be notarized, and why do we have to get it notarized? Would my signature be fine? And you know what? I'm fine with this signature. If you're gonna give me that affidavit saying you're operating, whether it's signed by you or notarized by a notary, I don't care, okay? As long as I get it.
Okay. Counselor Roach?
I just would be sure that the notarizing doesn't have some sort of different legal effect. So I'm with you.
Mhm.
Because it seems like an unnecessary obstacle to have them comply, and we want them to comply. So I'm totally with you.
Right.
I would just check with legal, who may say, yeah, that would be nice, except if they notarize it, it has this legal consequence.
We can do that.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay. Counselor Oliver?
Just real quick, when it comes to the alterations, or at least you're thinking on the alterations to the ordinance,
Yep.
are you guys gonna bring that forward when you're ready? Or like, is that gonna come to us?
Yeah,
at
well,
some point in the
we've
future?
been talking over with the law department and,
Yeah.
we're just not gonna change it on our own.
Understood.
Yeah, we can, I,
If we are gonna make the changes, I just wanna know that they're coming that you guys are on it, you're gonna have that conversation with law, whether it's right now or in the future.
In the future, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
I think the committee can create a parens too if we needed amendment. This is a discussion and reporting item, I think, but I can't remember the full text.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it included, changes to the ordinance, but if we wanna talk about changes, somebody's gotta start that process, is really all I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, if you could mark it up, what you want, like that one section out and whatever.
Yeah.
And then bring it by law or, Mr. Lee, and then, bring it to, planning and we can make those changes. Cause we wanna make your job as easy as possible.
You sure?
Okay, anything else?
I don't have anything else to add.
Okay,
Unless
any
you have
other
more
questions? So I think Counselor Baker said, he recommended to hold. Yep, okay, all those in favor, say aye.
I
Any nays? Abstain? Nope, 8-0. Okay, so I think, that's it. Oh, great. We'll be adjourning the meeting at 8:01 PM. Great, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, and all the members and the clerk.
Okay. Okay.
thank you.
Right.
Somewhere sunny.
Yeah.
Recording stopped.
So.
I don't know where he is, but it looks a lot nicer than it is here.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I'm in California visiting family for Persian New Year.
Yeah, you gotta stay there a while longer.
By the way, next time you're in California and you join by Zoom, remotely, like, just turn your camera off.
Just you want a snow background or something? Don't worry, I'll be home tomorrow to enjoy the cold with y'all.
That's acceptable as well. Thank you.
Going on.
How is airport security?
For what?
Oh, yeah.
So far, so good. Knock on wood.
John went through yesterday through Orlando and he said it took him 7 minutes. That's it.
UVH said that. for the
Yeah.
most part,
I'm watching ABC News and people waiting 5 hours. and
Yeah,
missing their
certain
flights.
airports, certain airports.
Well, yeah, if you're
Yeah.
in LaGuardia, I think it's even lower.
Oh, yeah.
So what's that?
That's some dark stuff.
Was it actually